Hello my loves and welcome back to Meditations. My name is Mela Malati and this is in essence my personal diary. This is where I come to reflect, integrate and understand more about the goings on in my life and what I can learn from those situations. Today there is no topic. Today is just about talking and feeling and introspection. Whether you're listening to learn something, whether you're listening to be a little bit nosy, I don't blame you. But either way, sit down, go for a walk, make a cup of tea, do whatever you want. But I suppose, let's dive in. So, the last couple of weeks have been very interesting. I've kind of realised that I've been in a state of grievance since my birthday. For those of you who don't know, I was lucky enough to be called into doing Ayahuasca, and from that moment my reality has completely shifted. I can't really even articulate what's happened, how it feels, and what the experience is like. It's something that I remember before I had done it or sat with Aya. I had all these questions of what it was like and, you know, what's the process? What do you see? What do you learn? And honestly, I'm lost for words. I can't even pinpoint it. I'll try my best because I do want to document that journey because it's integral to my becoming and my being. But in essence, I stumbled upon a beautiful circle of like-minded individuals, almost like a tribe, where I felt the ability to allow myself to be seen, which I realise more and more is very difficult for me. I find it a massive struggle to allow people to see me for who and what I am. I seem very open and vulnerable on paper and when I communicate, and there's a part of that is true, but then there's also this part where there's a lot of it that I'm hiding. And this was a space where I really had no option but to just be. And if I wasn't, the only person that would lose out in that situation was myself, because it was a really safe space for me to understand and explore who I am with the guidance of people who have been on the journey for far longer than I have. In terms of the actual process itself, I went to this beautiful retreat with a friend, and it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. Everyone was so free-loving and huggy and, you know, touchy-feely, and there were I love yous and hello sisters and hello brothers everywhere. And it made me feel deeply triggered, I suppose is the best way to put it. And the reason that I feel very triggered in those circumstances is because I don't think I've ever really experienced that kind of love without knowing someone. Does that make I don't know if that makes sense, but this kind of, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you've come from, but you are okay, you're safe and you're accepted. I don't think I've really felt that, and I was very guarded and I was very like, oh, you know, is this all just bollocks? Is this all for show? And by the end of the retreat, I realised, no, it was not bollocks and it was not for show and it was all genuine. Now, obviously, connections come and go. You're not going to be in a group chat where everything's popping off constantly. But when people in that space said, I love you and I see you, and they'd hold you, there was not one part of that that was misaligned nor a lie. It was all as true as it possibly could be, and I too felt that in return, which was really inspiring to me because it showed me that there is that potential in my heart and my life. And it introduced me to the divinity of both the feminine and the masculine, especially towards the masculine, because I hadn't experienced that energy in such a large magnitude throughout so many different men before. Like the beauty of mankind, the beauty of men, and the beauty of women. Like, I was in awe. I was allowed to be seen. I felt comfortable to be seen. And I suppose when I was in that state, when you're in a space like that, your state of mind shifts in general. So I felt more at ease. But now that I've left that and I can feel and see divine energy, especially in the masculine, it kind of triggers me a little bit again. But the best way that I could describe it, to a way that I think the majority of people would understand, or the majority of women, is, you know, when you come across a guy and they look at you with a certain glint in their eye, and they're not seeing you for you, they're seeing you for what you offer as a body. In essence, you feel like you're a piece of meat and you're being stared at by a hungry dog. This was the complete opposite. This was just being, you know? And it highlighted to me that there are men out there that can hold space. I think I knew that before, but actually, like, being held in that space and being a sister was incredible. But anyway, I digress. The actual process was beautifully ceremonial, and my experience was not what I wanted at all. At all. I had this idea in my head of what it would be. I was expecting to see and understand all these beautiful things. I was also completely ready to shit myself and just puke, because purging can occur. But in this instance, for me, I was just waiting. I was waiting for a whole evening. And it felt like nothing. It felt like either the dose wasn't enough or something was wrong. And then it became kind of this feeling of, why is it not coming for me? Why am I not feeling it? Why? And then I realised that it was this rejection. It was a rejection of myself that was manifesting in this instance by this beautiful medicine feeling to me like I was being rejected by it or by her. In reality, what happened was the medicine showed me exactly what I needed to see, which was that I was rejecting myself. And I had a lot of mother wounds that I need to heal. And to be quite frank with you, that's daunting to me. I don't know if I can. I can try. I am trying, but it's difficult. But after the ceremony, when we shared to the circle what kind of things we experienced over the night, it came to a head. Because initially I was like, I felt nothing, like this just hasn't worked for me. And then the more I delved into it and the more I understood, the best way that I could put it was, as a kid, I was picked up after school. I lived in the countryside and my parents didn't want me to get public transport. So oftentimes my parents would be late. Now, I don't know if that's a Sri Lankan time kind of thing. Well, it's definitely not. But either way, there were instances where sometimes I'd be waiting in the snow for an hour after school, or just, the sun had gone down, it was dark, it was scary, it was creepy. And I just remember those endless phone calls to my parents being like, hey, where are you? Like, what's happening? And my dad saying something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm just in Tesco's. I'm just picking up some bits." And me saying, "Tesco's in Harlow." That's a 30-minute drive away. And you're already 20 minutes late, or you're already half an hour late. In the grand scheme of things, this is not a big problem. It's not a big problem to have at all. I'm very grateful for the fact that I even had parents that were willing to pick me up. But it evidently affected me far beyond my realisation at the time. And that rejection of my family, or what felt like rejection of my family towards me, led to me making myself as small as I possibly can to fit in spaces and make people feel comfortable around me, by minimising my needs, desires, and widening my boundaries and accepting bullshit, right? And that's what I really need to learn at the moment. Is it's actually the most selfless thing you can do at times is to be as selfish as you possibly can, to an extent, mind you. I will always say to an extent. But it's funny, I was talking with a colleague about this morning, and I was saying that if you take the time to kind of get your house in order, and by that I mean do the things that make you happy, which might to the external look selfish. So that might be, well, I'm gonna go get my nails done, I'm gonna go get my lashes done, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna pay for a PT, I'm gonna do XYZ, I'm gonna treat myself to like an $8 muffin that's fully organic, refined sugar free. That's fine. And then if that allows you to have the space within your own heart to then show up for other people because you filled your own cup, right? Then that's beautiful. But what I was doing in the past was, oh, actually, so-and-so's birthday's coming up and I would like to get them XYZ, so I'm going to scrap back on these things that I actually need, or like I'm going to get the cheaper version of the vitamins as opposed to the expensive version. Stupid decision, because the cheaper vitamins are just full of bulking agents anyway. But I hope that makes sense. I really hope that what I'm trying to articulate is coming through. But that was one of the lessons that I had to learn. And then the following day we partook in some other medicines, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful seeing the world in such a different perspective, in such a loving perspective, just understanding the vibrations of everything. And since that moment, the work that I've been doing has shifted from this kind of, how are people perceiving me, into a, how am I perceiving myself? How am I showing up for myself? How is my head? How is my mind? How am I gonna do and be the things that I want to be from a less, I don't want to say superficial point of view, because that's not the case at all. I think that discipline in body leads to discipline in mind, and vice versa. But I really feel like I did one side of all that work, and now I've been called to do this other side of the work, and in between that find this balance. And again, all of that is down to just listening to my body and treating my body and my mind as sovereign, as the goddess, and leaning into that, leaning into my power and not being scared of myself, which is terrifying, mind you. It's all teaching me that I'm very young, I'm very immature at times, and there's also a beauty in that, and there's something that I should hold on to within that, because it's important, I suppose, to behave your age. And age is nothing but a number, and it's different to every single person, right? But for me right now, this is who I am, and this is the things that I need to explore and understand, and that's okay. I don't know what this means for my future. I also don't really know what this means for my past, but it's all starting to make sense in the most nonsensical way possible. Every day feels like I'm grieving, because I am. I'm dying every single day. The person that I knew or thought I was is disappearing right in front of me. But with that, there is also this rebirth. So it's this constant bittersweet feeling. It's hard to describe, but it's interesting. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I don't know who I'm going to be. I have an idea, obviously. We all know what I'm like. I always have an idea of things. But it's just so intriguing to me, you know? Who could I possibly be? And that's so cool, right? I'm not tied to the social timelines that I once thought I was. I'm not tied to the corporate ladder. I'm not tied to a career ladder, I suppose. I'm not tied to one piece of land. I'm not tied to a man. I'm not tied to anything. I am just floating in space. Now, depending on your perspective of that could be very scary, because it's the most unclear thing but also the clearest thing. And I always needed clarity. I still do to an extent, but this is different. This is so different. And being so untied to everything, everyone, is this safe space where I just get to be and I get to explore. You know, I get to do a job where I get to think for most of the day, and I have a clear directive, and I do my due diligence, and I come home, and then it's just me. I'm not conscious of XYZ. I just get to be me again. And that's so much fun for me. But I'm also learning about all these different things and skills and talents that I have, and how to understand them more. I don't know. It's just a very interesting time in my life. Yeah, I think that's this entry done. This is the vibe that I want the episodes to be more of, I think. Just genuine diary entries, because as I've said before, this is what it is for me. It's a place where I can not unload. I suppose it is. It's a place where I can talk the things in my head out loud and understand them from a different perspective. I come to realise that I have a very maze-like mind, and it's very interesting in there. I hold a lot of wisdom, but sometimes it gets a bit cloudy with all the thoughts going on and the fact that everything's at 100 miles an hour. So being able to sit down and just take my time to verbalise what's going on up there is helpful. Not just helpful for me, I feel. I think there's things that sometimes I say that can be helpful to anyone. Maybe. Or my kids. As I said before. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. It's a short one. I hope it's been relaxing. I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of my story so far. And if you're interested in anything that I've mentioned and you want to know more, please feel free to reach out. I'm only a message away. Anyway, have the most loveliest day where you are. I hope you enjoy whatever weather you have, whatever connections you make, people you meet, or conversations you have. Remember that there is something to be learned in everything. So revel in it. Living is knowledge. Living is wisdom. Living is learning. So, there you go, my loves. Anyway, bye.